Well, we've got Mr. Bolaji Ogunṣayi here with us. He is a development economist and a sustainable development economics expert, if you will. He's worked with several UN agencies and corporate governance in states. Thank you for coming on again this morning, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you know, we've always talked about this in terms of how states need to ensure that they get their structures right, because if that doesn't happen, no matter how much budgetary provisions they make, developments may just be few and far between. But in terms of getting that right, what needs to be done, perhaps I should start with to get your thoughts on this ongoing screening now, to digress a little bit before I come back to this state. Are you impressed with the way it's going so far?
Well, I mean, it's a peculiar way of doing things. I mean, it's peculiarly Nigerian. I mean, there's a lot of deference to power, to position, to previous position, to the big man syndrome in the system. So, I mean, after all, not the first time that we have asked people to come, just courtesy and go away and everything. And is it working? Who knows? I mean, there's so much in the system anyway that is structurally, you know, not the best, not even good. That, well, if you have this, and the people in the Senate made up their minds they were going to do this. They've defended it.
They say it's a tradition.
It's
so
a tradition.
If you're not a former lawmaker, so, you know, you have to answer questions.
You know, underdevelopment and misgovernance are also traditions in the system. Therefore, you know, if we have just this one more, you know, for good or for ill, quite frankly, I wouldn't bang my head against the wall.
I'm taking it to the States now. Sorry, pardon me, guys, in case you want to go back to that. Just, what did you find? You know, you have done work with some states. Is it that they really don't care less about corporate governance, or they're trying, but not getting the kind of results they want?
Well, I mean, look, let's get the terminology right first. Corporate governance, for me, it's more directly applicable to the private corporate sector. In government, yes, you can have some kind of governance, if you like, efficiency, and that, if you ask me, will be related more to transaction governance, transaction between individuals and state structures, state entities, and between especially state entities and corporate bodies. So if that's what you mean, how they interact in transaction governance, because the issue really is transaction governance. If you want some permit, or you want some certificate, or you want some approval from government, how does it happen?
That's why the MDAs, performance of the NDAs, perhaps, yes, they also play key roles in implementing the budget of the states.
Yeah.
Now, if some state is coming up with a change, that's an area where they really have got to be concerned about. I know some states, they try to do exams for them. Some states try to whittle down the civil service in the state, and they don't have problems.
Yeah, it's even more than that. Look, what I'm saying is this. There are a lot of agencies now, you know, that are coming on board the digital trade. They say, oh, you fill this thing online, therefore you reduce you personalize the system more. You reduce the amount of physical contact where you go to collect the form. And you understand? Fill it online. But the truth is, in 2 out of 3 cases, perhaps, what you get really is yes, you do all the online thing, but honestly, at the end of the day, when you want to anchor, you know, the traditional things will still happen. You still pay some money, you're still extorted somewhere down the line. That's one. Number 2, an awful lot of time is wasted in the conduct of transactional governance between the guys behind the counter, the government counter, and Mr. and Mrs. Citizen, including the corporate, you know, entities. You need to look at that a lot, in addition to quite a number of things. I don't think just getting the corporate governance that you say right is enough to solve the developmental problems you have in the state. You need to do real things to real people, and we know the demography that really needs to be economically empowered in a structured way. in order to start addressing
That
this
then
issue.
indicates that the effort to depersonalize the system and make the system more efficient is
More institutionalized.
institutionalize the system is not going to happen soon.
Well, I don't know. There isn't anything in the air to make it happen soon, but it should happen. That's our best bet by miles. I'm happy I heard something before we started that now it seems, the government people are listening to some of these things that these great and good people and glamorous people come to say on this channel, which arguably is probably you're quite outstanding. I mean, let's face it. Maybe a better way, and I'm sorry to advise channel television, in open air, but maybe one of the best ways you could do this really is to once every 6 months, just take the salient points, the real big punches of the kinds of stuff you gather from your, the people you interview here. You may not include what I say, but get some of these punches out, edit them.
You mean some of those governments don't move faster than us before 6 months?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that they move faster than the citizens. I think the citizens
There are some cases that they are
trying.
They do 1 or 2 things.
Every 6 months, gather this thing. I mean the punch. I mean, people come in and just edit this and present it to every Mr. and Mrs. every governor and minister and everything. Maybe that's one way. But really, if you're looking at, because I think it goes beyond, governance and things. Governance is critical, no question. But you really have to isolate demographies and go after them with economic empowerment. Let me give you 2 examples. The informal sector, which is huge. I don't know any one of you here who does anything with CFA or UAC and things, fix your car, or, we all use the informal sector, mostly. Am I correct? 90% of Nigerians, maybe 95% of the occasions, we patronize that sector. And yet it's completely, you know what I mean? It's all over the place and upside down. You can work with that sector to bring in a greater efficiency and effectiveness and profitability by introducing, something I'll call, small business failure prevention scheme. Private and government, you see, come together and you hand over the driving of that thing to the private sector. Maybe government funds a bit of it. And what is it? You pay an insurance, little fee, Mr. and Mrs. Market woman, market guy, you pay an insurance, and then you get a number of helps from this body as an insured person, okay? NEPA cannot just come and take your meter, cut it, and go away. They will meet between you and them. There will be that scheme, the lawyers of that scheme. Nobody can just come and say, local government.
Agencies of government, NERCs, and the rest of them who are supposed to ensure that doesn't happen.
Well, they're not doing it. So I'm saying government should now begin to look at new instruments to do old unsolved problems.
That goes back to what you raised about individuals in the back end, in the ministries, still, frustrating some of these things. I mean, you are not unaware of the fact that many people will tell you that, they still have these situations where some civil servant somewhere is inhibiting, progress, always asking for one thing or the other, just as you said the other time, asking for some form of kickback.
Well, there's a problem you solve. You see, one of my biggest problems in Nigeria is this tendency not to solve problems. I mean, I can give you a whole list of stuff that I complained about in the governance of Nigeria 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and we're still, life goes on. We talk about them even now. So I think we must develop the capacity, the earnestness to solve problems. Do you understand? And if government won't do it, force them to do it.
Rather than create some of those other interfacing agencies, why don't we strengthen the already existing ones?
So
because if we duplicate this one,
do it. I'm not saying duplicate. So when I say you get some, it's a mechanism. It's not even going to be a government thing. It's more private. It's just a mechanism, somebody to stay on the side of the citizen against, literally, I'm sorry to say it's against, but that's what it is, or at least in the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Citizen and the guy behind the counter. Right now, it's 90% loaded in their favor and 10% in favor of the
Consumer rights,
citizen.
I hope they're listening.
You know, when we talk about corporate governance, corporate governance coming together, and the question is, why is it hard? Why does it appear hard to replicate some of the effectiveness, efficiency, profitability that you've talked about in the corporate world in government? You see people, for example, they've been successful in the corporate world, I mean, done so well, and they get into government and they find it really hard to replicate some of those things in government. So the question is, why is it really hard?
And the attitude and the spirit that most Nigerians take into government. Government is this thing out there that provides an opportunity for you to just take out of the system. Okay, the way we see government is the other body, and the way the government also sees us is these citizens that if they come to us for something, got to screw them hard and everything. So Nigerians don't see government as the body that platform to serve them. Okay, so as soon as we get into government, we start looking at, okay, what can I get out of it? Some before you have even started, their head is already working. So until you really,
That is changing though.
I hope it's changing. I have been interacting. I've had situation, for my son to interact with the governance system over the last X number of weeks. And I can tell you, I don't know, if it's changing very slowly. But the point is, until the majority of citizens, until leadership gives us enough signals that they are here to serve, we all go in and do the same thing. Everybody who's been on the other side complaining, as soon as they get in, somebody's made a minister, everybody's greeting. It's because very soon they're going to say, what are you going to give? So we all of us need to change our mindset. We need a brain graft, a mind graft.
Okay, let me
to be able to
just bring this in.
Understand
because,
how government should operate.
This happened some days ago. And in terms of how people perceive a state, international bodies, if they want to do business with a state, they like to see that transparency, the books are clean, they can deal with them, those kind of parameters. But if, for instance, Oyo State Governor declares his asset, makes it public, and then conversation about it, some thought, okay, well, they're thinking as well, if I've got all of this, you can bet that I'm not here to pilfer the resources of the state. Maybe it depends on how people perceive that. Now, if you were to advise, if there were one, or maybe there are 2 or 3 governors out there, whichever party, and they think, look, I want to actually come in here and do something because I have a name to protect, how should they approach it?
I started off by saying, for me, even beyond the governance thing, important though that is, very important, is to look at real people, real demographics. One thing I would do, I was going to talk about that earlier on, is as a governor, if you made me a governor of Bonga State now, what I would do would be to set up holding companies in all my local governments. Each one holding company.
It doesn't depend on the state.
What?
It doesn't depend on the nature, the peculiarity, finances of the state.
All of them have money. I mean, they're not rich. What I'm saying, every state gets some pot of money every month. They spend that money, right? How many people do they impact in spending that money? Whether or not you like it, every state gets money. Some people provide services to that state government. Am I correct? Some people do contracts for them. The question, who are these people? Are they just their friends? Are they just the political actors around them? Are they just their, do you understand? Or can this money be split? Let's even say 60-40 between them and these demographics that need help. I will set up a holding company, and it's going to be holding so that they can do a variety of things for me. In every local government, it'll be a company. 200, 300 kids, like, youth, boys and girls, right? And there will be a proper company, and they will have a technical service provider working with them. So if I give them a road contract in that local government, right? Don't tell me that, oh, well, they are not engineers. I can tell you, all the billionaires who get the contracts are not engineers.
So wait, will this be
so that is a way.
More companies,
No.
government being in business?
Government is not setting up anywhere. Government is already in business. Only that they are disastrously so. So don't let's deceive ourselves. I mean, hey, federal government is showing so much interest in cow business. It's a private business. So much so that the discussion around cattle and cow is now the dominant, the central discourse in governance and development in Nigeria. It's a bit embarrassing. This is 2019. Other countries want to move on to electric cars and all these things. The number one discourse today, macro policy, literally in Nigeria today, is cow. So government is already trying to get into business anyway. You know, they run Ports Authority, they run this, they vote.
Does that make it right?
So it doesn't make it right. And I'm not saying government should do, I'm just saying enable the setting up of private holding companies. Those things are not owned. It is the 200 children who have the shares, who are the owners. And they will have a technical. The point I'm trying to make is this. Government spends maybe 10 billion a year. And I'm saying all that on buying services, recurrent services, and on capital projects. And I'm saying 98% of that money, as it happens now, shouldn't be going to friends of government and friends of this and family.
How many percent would you give? How many percent would you
60, because the people are more than the government, 60 to, you know, and then you can target demographics. I keep saying that. It's the youth who don't have a job. They are the ones who should own the company and let them execute contracts. At least in their local government, you know, even security, so many services that they can do. What are you doing? You are taking government spending, annual spending, the execution of the budget. You are taking the government leverage, the patronage, the spending. You are not just restricting it to your friends in Lekki and Via and everything. You are taking it down to the local government. You are going, you see, more small money in the hands of the majority has a stronger knock-on impact on the GDP growth and the economy generally than more money in the hands of a few billionaires. I will not be making more billionaires richer than they are. I'll be making those who don't have 50,000 to start a business richer.
Now, briefly, before we go on our break, hypothetically speaking, this is your Bonga state, for example. The moves you're making, there's perhaps a vision, there's a purpose, you're trying to achieve something. So the question is, you said there should be a mindset change and all that. So how should we view government? What should be the vision? What should be the purpose? And I think that will determine the moves that will be made. So briefly, what should be the vision of government?
Look, not very hard. It's not rocket science. The vision of the government you see in Britain, in Switzerland, in Holland, and we know what it is by its product, right? It's that the government is there to enable both its own machinery of action, which is its MDAs, but especially more the private actors within the economy, to enable them, okay, to perform at their maximum best, okay, to facilitate things. Right now, government is a disenabler more than it's a. Let me give you an example. Our cars get ruined. You put a nice car on the road. The government helps you to ruin it because suddenly you get into that hole in the road, and then it costs you 200,000 to fix, which we are not planning for. So the government may well be, not that that's what they want to do, but their incompetence is making them a contributor to the problems in the personal economies of millions of Nigerians, okay? So government has to turn itself into an enabler. We should also see it as an enabler, okay? And they should want to do it. It's even good. If you're a governor, you do very well, you know, you make a lot of people happy. Do you know how much people send curses to these people every day? Deserved and undeserved curses. You know, if you do a Jakonde in Lagos, I just give an example. You know, it's not the most ideal. Think of Awolowo, think of a few other governors across Nigeria. Even think of late President Yaradua, what he did in his state as governor. Government should be seen and should be felt to be an enabler. And you know, we should be stronger in doing that. We leave them too much. That gets to me. Let us take them to court and say, your roads are uncarworthy. Right now they're saying our cars are unroadworthy. Take them to court. I will not pay for unroadworthiness until you make your roads to be carworthy.
But do you think anyone can actually, for for instance, if I doesn't bring his car, the best ones, because he's afraid that road might just cause trouble, can he successfully ever sue government and state government or local government?
Not him. Class action.
Okay, there can be a class action.
Oh yeah, 1,000 car users in a local government can sue the state government and local government for the bad roads. You see, and that's part of my definition of understanding what government is about. They're supposed to serve you, but if they deserve you, if they cause you problems, you have a right. Somebody hit their, toe against one of the culverts in New York, because maybe the iron was sticking. In Manhattan, all those things they have. And she went to court. She got $5 million. I think when we even begin to do that, and they see that we are taking the money they won't have to steal, they can't have that money to steal when we take it through the courts. Maybe they will sit up.
I'm just wondering, if a judge hits it and didn't sue anybody, then the guy comes and sues. So it's a challenge, that we have in society here, how to ensure that the consciousness of the people is actually there, because it is their right to ensure to have those things. It's not.
They don't even know.
Government is not doing anybody any favor by doing those roads.
No.
As you always say, no governor or government, they don't come to governance with their pocket money to come and fix some of this.
No. Let them, for instance, dedicate their security vote, for which we know they don't publicly account. They don't even privately account. And we know there's some little change left there. Little, in some is huge. Let them dedicate, as good Christians and Muslims, let them just do this as humanists and say, I will dedicate X percentage of my security vote, whatever is left of it, to a particular project that does good to people, okay? That does good to people, that changes people's situation for the better over the long term.
The ministerial ministerial screening is going on.
Yeah.
And these ministers will most certainly work with some states, partner with them at one level or another. You talked about demography-focused development the other time. Between the federal government and the state government, what do you think they should prioritize within the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years?
They should prioritize good governance. And one of the many ways to do it, really, is to set the platform for making ideas for governance, to set it right. I personally have a quarrel with the way we run from federal, especially federal, and state and things. Look, let me tell you, ministers who are competing within their ministries to be the best minister and things cannot come together every Wednesday, is it? The Federal Executive Council, Tuesday or Wednesday, come together, and when they present, I have friends who be ministers. You present is all under a rush. You have to do everything in 30 minutes and things. And with that orchestra, you hope to run even a simple, non-complex country, you won't succeed. We need bodies. If I was, again, Governor Bunga Bunga, I will set up an overarching body. Do you understand? Full of genuine development experts. I've even used foreign ones, some from the diaspora. What do? They take if you make me commissioner for information, I'm concerned about information and the propaganda and everything. Make me Minister of Education. So you see, all of them are in their silos trying to get laurels. You must have a body over them, above them, reporting directly to the governor, which takes a holistic look. Says, what you are doing in education, how does it impact agric? What you're doing in agric, how does it impact commerce? What you're doing in works, do you understand? So this body is looking at that and is helping the governor to lay down, direction.
We hope you don't have to break the law to fight corruption. But in Bonga states. Well, thank you for coming on, Mr. Balaji Ogunshe, sustainable development economist.